What up, though? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lawrence Report. And on tonight's broadcast, we're discussing episode 9 of BMF. And I gotta let y'all know, one thing is for sure. Markeisha said, I'm going to get my vacation one way or another. And oh my God, did she? Why did Terry bring her on this trip to Miami, knowing they was trying to handle business and not anything else but business? But Markeisha's there, and I'm starting to get a little bit annoyed with Markeisha. I got a question to ask y'all. Do y'all think that it was Markeisha who tipped off the Red Dogs that, Terry and Meech and them was coming back to the A and then was driving these vehicles? I'm gonna tell you why. Because Markeisha said, a real boss wouldn't drive his own product back to where he was at, right? She was saying that when it comes to you being a boss, you will have your other little minions to do that type of stuff. So I'm 100% sure that it was Markeisha that tipped the Red Dogs off. Sound off in the comments if y'all think it was Markeisha. And oh my God, why they had to knock off my boy Hoops like that? My boy got murked. Henry is about to go on a rampage after she finds out what happened to Tyson. Not to mention Charles. He got that music deal. Everybody want Charles out the house because Lucille can get her freak on with Dr. Mara Reese. Nicole could spend time with that little boy. I can't think of his name right now. They can finally be together. Oh man. And of course, we got Meech and Terry down there in Miami trying to set up weight with the boxer and this new mechanic by the name of Francois, because we know that by him doing this, they can hide the weight. Hide the weight into the car is what I'm trying to say, but let's get into it, y'all. So on this episode of BMF, like I said, Meech and Terry, they down there in Miami. They beating up with the boxer at the club, and the boxer lets them know that, there's a mechanic by the name of Francois who basically hooked up his ride. We saw him back in, I think it was back in Atlanta, and that's when the boxer, Mac, showed them, how Francois hooked up their ride. He figured out, Meech and Terry was like, hey, well, if he hooked up your ride, we can do this for our drugs, and we can make sure that we distribute everything that flows through us directly. We ain't got to go through nobody. It all can just flow through us. So that is smart on Terry and Meech to come up with that idea right there in itself. I think that's pretty genius, because now you ain't have to wait on nobody. You can do everything on your own. So we see them in the club, right? Down there in Miami, and the name of this episode is called Death Trap, right? And it is a death trap. You're going to down there where the MK is located at, on their home territory, which is crazy in itself, but they had to do what they had to do. So they're in the club, they see Angel down there. And why? Speaking of Angel, why is she running around with Glock at that funeral? That is crazy, but I didn't get that part. But anyway, they see Angel, they see MK's in the club, and all of a sudden everybody is scattering like roaches, right? And as they're leaving, Meech and Terry are driving, and Terry's like, did you know about Angel stripping down there and all the MK stuff? And he was like, yeah, I knew. But then he's like, that's when Terry's like, you set this up the way you set up before. Like, you keep doing this stuff and endangering our lives. And I feel like Terry does have a right to be upset with Meech not give him 100% of the intel, but only give him some of the intel. He needs to know everything, and Meech has been keeping certain parts, I believe, secretive. But he's like, we in together from the womb to the tomb, as they say, right? So, like I said, that is a genius idea for Terry and Meech to come up with the idea to put the drugs, in a safety area, like a vault almost type area in the car, so that the Red Dogs cannot catch it. So genius to those brothers right there. But let's talk a little bit about Detective Chen and the one and only Brian. She comes over to visit Brian's house, and Brian, goes into detail and tell her that, I kind of killed Henry cousin Tyson, because Brian said, you want transparency, and I got transparency for you. And she comes up with the idea that, why don't we plant a bug on Henry, right? So we do see, her going undercover in the blonde wig. In the blonde wig, she ends up putting a bug into the staff of Henry's staff, basically, which I thought was pretty smart on her. So she's walking a dangerous territory, and her and Henry, like I said in the previous episode, they kind of humanized Henry, right? Her and Henry get freaky, but Detective Chen's doing what she got to do to take down Henry at all costs. When it comes to Tyson's body, this is very smart of Brian, right? He ended up burying the body, I believe it was in a dumpster near Terry's restaurant, right? So now, of course, where I know, Henry is going to go crazy when she finds out that she believes that it was ultimately Terry who ended up killing Tyson. So that was a very strategic move right there by Brian to place the body near Terry's restaurant. Later, we end up seeing Glock, right? Glock is at the funeral of his boy T'Chaka. And like I said, Angel was at his funeral. I'm like, why is Angel at the funeral? Her and Glock that close? Are they that tight? Like, I know you may be stripping for him, you may be sleeping with him, but did you need to go to the funeral? But it is what it is, right? But they end up finding out that, Meech and Terry are on their home turf. So the MKs are about to go crazy. And not to mention, we got y'all boy Remy. Remy is trying to find intel about where Meech and them is at. He does get a little bit of information, but at the same time, he wants to make sure that Meech and Terry, that them boys stay outsiders, that they're no longer welcome back to the A. So Remy is still pissed off by everything that happened. But this is another character I'm ready to get rid of, is Remy. I'm tired of seeing him. He's got to go. He got to go some way. He got to go. It's no secret that Angel still has feelings for Meech, right? In fact, she ends up finding him on the beach out here. And she tells him that I can't go back. I can't go back to Glock. And I want to be with you. And so they reunite, basically. Let's talk about Charles and Lucille. Now, Charles is playing this music. And the band, the Campbell brothers, they hear him. It's like, wow, he sounds so good. They tell Charles that, we want you to go on tour with us out there in Memphis, right? And Charles is kind of undecided. He's like, well, I kind of need to talk this over with my wife. So he goes home to Lucille. And he tells her he's like, Lucille, I want you to come on the road with me, with the Campbell brothers. We can see the world. This can be the honeymoon that we never really had. And Lucille's like, oh, yeah, that's amazing. But you should go by yourself because I got other plans. And Charles realized, like, you're not doing this because of Dr. Maurice. Is that the main reason why you stand behind? And yeah, Charles, that is the main reason why she's staying behind, because she wanted to get her freak on with Dr. Maurice, right? And Charles like, well, don't act like this is about me. And Lucille's like, don't act like this is about me either. And even Nicole is in the kitchen. She's encouraging her father to go onto the road. Because keep in mind, if he goes onto the road, right, Lucille is going to be able to get her freak on with Dr. Maurice. Nicole is going to be able to hang out with that little boy. And, Charles, of course, while he's on the road, Charles ain't going to be faithful. You already know that. I hate to say it. He's not going to be faithful. It is what it is, right? So Charles, he has to make a decision. Will he go on the road or will he stay behind because of the situation with Dr. Maurice and Lucille? And speaking of Lucille, let's talk about her. So Dr. Maurice ends up booking a dinner in a hotel all together, a 2-in-1 combination. And Lucille has been looking absolutely gorgeous this season. She's always been a gorgeous woman, period. But to even turn it up a notch, I feel like whenever she got with Dr. Maurice. And she asked Dr. Maurice, why did you do this hotel? And he's like, listen, it's simple, baby. You want to cry in a car? You want to cry in a Honda? Or you want to cry in a Mercedes-Benz? And, they end up going to the hotel. It's starting to get freaky, right? But she stops. She's like, I can't do this. I'm still married. I'm thinking about Charles. And Dr. Maurice is like, well, I'll continue to wait. I love you. I'll continue to wait no matter how long it may take. Let's get to Nicole. Now, like I said, Nicole, she is encouraging, that her father go on this trip as well because she get her chance to be with Breeze. In fact, she invites Breeze over and he's at the house, without the parents knowing. But Charles does come home and Breeze, he makes that escape out the door. But later we see Charles, and I actually love this right here. Charles and his daughter, they're going out on a daddy-daughter dance, right? And the daughter, they're talking and, she lets her father know, Charles, that, there's a man that I'm seeing, a man that I like. His name is Breeze. He's very smart and calculus, things of that nature. He works other jobs to help his mother out. And Charles is like, well, I just want to let you know, don't put all your eggs in one basket, basically, right? He's saying you got the whole world ahead of you. You ain't got to settle down right now. And then Cole's like, well, one thing for sure, I'm not going to let him treat me the way he treated mom. And Charles is like, oh. And he's like, and Nicole's like, I didn't mean it like that. And Charles is like, yeah, you did. But Charles goes over to play some music to try to kind of move down between both of them. So I love the daddy-daughter dance that they had right there. As far as Francois, right? We know that Meech and Terry are meeting up with him to make sure that he can supply everything that they need as far as the installments of their vehicle. And he does come in clutch, right? And also Terry and Meech, they end up bringing down their family from Atlanta. We see Duffy and the rest of the crew. They want to let, Francois know that we got your best interest at heart. And I need you to do your magic and install all the safes for these cars right here. And these are some top-notch, extremely expensive vehicles right here. And Francois does his thing. The crew from Atlanta, they are impressed with what Francois can do because they feel like now this right here will completely go undetected from the Red Dogs. Not looking good for Henry. She does end up finding out, after her date with Detective Chen and, they got freaky and all that, she's been calling Tyson for a minute. Tyson has not been answering, but she does find out that he basically got killed. And we see this cop right here. He is basically a dirty cop. We know him and Blaze are kind of working together, right? And for Henry, she already knows now that I have to kill BMF. But her father's like, no, you won't. No, you won't. You will not. You will not disobey me. You will not. Henry's like, cool. You know what? This is what I do then. So she ends up marking hoops, and man, sad. He's one of the OG guys, from BMF from like the very beginnings of the show. So sad that he had to go out the way he did, but Henry is about to be on a rampage of vengeance. That girl Markeisha, man, she is, she wants this vacation bad, right? So we know that Terry brings her along on the vacation, right? And, he ends up telling her, she claims that, this is nothing new to her. Like this kind of work that, Terry's doing, because she's like, listen, Boone used to do this all the time, right? Like this ain't nothing, right? And Terry's like, listen, what we're handling right now, this is JV. Boone has never done what we have done right here. Boone has been doing junior varsity stuff. We're on a different type level right here, right? So we know that Terry and Meech, they both had Angel basically sitting in the hotel, right? And, Markeisha felt some type of way. Meech ends up giving Angel a gun, and Markeisha's like, well, do you got a strap for me? Terry's like, yeah, I got you one. It ain't no problem, right? So when he returns from working with Francois and doing all this stuff, Markeisha is feeling some type of way. She's like, listen, if I known that it was going to be like this for the vacation, I would have stayed home, right? And he's like, listen, I've been busting my tail, providing this lifestyle for you and for me, of course. She's like, listen, well, if I knew it was going to be like this right here, I would stay home. And what are you doing driving your own way back to Atlanta? And she tells him, look at you, again, listening to Meech, right? And she's about to sabotage the entire plan, basically, right? And she's always planted inside of Terry's head that you need to stop being number two. You need to step up and be the boss and be the number one that you are. But, Terry's like so pissed off. I was like, listen, I already booked you a flight back to the crib. So pack your stuff and get on out. We'll have this discussion later. So Markeisha pissed off. But at the same time, I believe, which we've seen this right here, that, she's trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? She's trying to slow down the plans of Terry because she really wants him to get out of this business, period. She wants him to be at home, to be a family man, to not have to do any of this, push him drugs, any of this right here. So if there's an opportunity for her to sabotage the plan, she's going to do it. So after the big fight, between Terry and Markeisha, we got Angel and Meech. They're ready to leave the hotel, and Terry finally arrives, but Meech ends up spotting the MKs. They are in the hotel, and it's an all-out fight. I love this little kung fu kick that Meech ends up giving Glock, which was absolutely hilarious to me to see right there. And while they're shooting, I don't know how in the world Glock's men did this. They end up shooting Glock, I believe, in the back. He got some clumsy men with him. How are you gonna shoot your own man in the back? Crazy. Absolutely crazy. As we get closer to the end, we know that Terry and Meech, they always dreamed about going to Miami, right? And Miami's beautiful in itself, right? Beautiful sight to see. And, Terry admits that, being the number one guy, it is much harder than you think. And Meech is like, well, don't worry. We're about to take over the world. The world is ours, right? And as they're getting ready to leave, they got the whole MKs chasing after behind them with the cars and things of that nature. They get down there back to the A, right? And while they're down there in the A, they have these vehicles. All the drugs are down there, in the little safety departments. Those red dogs are near. And the red dogs like, yo, y'all ain't taking these cars nowhere. We about to impound these bad boys. And Meech is like, what? And that's basically how the episode ends, that, all the weight, all the drugs that they put inside the vehicle is about to be impounded. And these mechanics may end up cutting this car absolutely apart to find out if there are any drugs in these vehicles. And that's how the episode ends. So they was like, they said that it was a anonymous tip. So do y'all think that it was Markeisha who tipped them off? It had to be Markeisha. I can't think of nobody else. And as always, oh yeah, it had to be Markeisha. I'm 100% sure it was Markeisha. It couldn't have been nobody else, but we'll see. I think we have to wait until later on in next month to get this episode or something like that. I thought I read, but it's gonna be a while before we get episode 10. So, and as always, thank you for tuning in to the Lawrence Report.